First Nation and Native American Reservation Sightings, Part 2. Killers of the Bear? Fast forward again. Here is a brief article recorded in British newspaper, the London Times, dated January 4th, 1784. There has lately arrived in France from North America a wild man who was caught in the woods, 200 miles back from the Lake of the Woods, by a party of Indians. They had seen him several times, but he was so swift of foot that they could by no means catch up with him. He is near 7 feet high, covered with hair, but has little appearance of understanding and is remarkably sullen and subdued. When he was taken, half a bear was found lying by him, whom he had just killed. Legends of the Sasquatch being a killer of bears is traceable as far back as 230 years ago in the London Times news clipping. It was interesting to note that the wild man was apparently easily apprehended by the local Indians. Here we are more than 2 centuries later. We not only cannot capture one, but field men cannot produce a respectable photograph. Yet there is a clear sketch of a hairy man being pursued by dogs a full 460 years ago in Queen Mary's Psalter, her Book of Psalms, on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. Great Britain is not currently considered a land where the Sasquatch lived, but their queen had knowledge of the hairy man. Great numbers of Sasquatch seemingly know, perhaps instinctively, that they are safer, perhaps accepted, in the confines of Indian reserves and those surrounding lands. Almost every so-called hotspot attributed to the Sasquatch is on land that either was or is occupied by people of Aboriginal descent. At the height of the black slavery era, the New Boston Gazette newspaper ran an article about a primitive-looking creature sighted on the summit of North Carolina's Bald Mountain, now, of course, Madison County. The account was written rather primitively during the height of slavery, dated May 17, 1793. The article spoke of an unnamed man who lived on the south fork of the Saluda River. In this man's correspondence, he describes a man-beast seen frequently in the Western Territories, perhaps with some degree of exaggeration by journalists of the day. This animal is between 12 and 15 feet high and in shape resembling a human being except for the head, which is in equal proportion to its body and drawn in at the neck, somewhat like a terrapin. A terrapin is described in early Virginia-era Algonquin as any of a family of North American terrestrials, especially a tortoise or large land turtles. It is a strange way to describe the neck of a primate. Continuing on, the report contains one of the first references to a Sasquatch that was shot. The article reads, "Its feet are like those of a Negro, flat and about 2 feet long, hairy, which is of a dark dun color. Its eyes are exceedingly large and open, and the hair of its head is about 6 inches long. It stands straight like a Negro. Its nose is what is called Roman. These animals are bold and have lately attempted to kill several persons. In such attempts, some of them have been shot. Their principal resort is on the Bald Mountain, where they lay in wait for travelers, but some have been seen in this part of the country." While primitively written, the earliest accounts describe the creature in the same way we find it being described in Neoteric terms. Ancient Aboriginals put emphasis on the great hair giants being bear-like, which made sense because the ancient Indian never saw anything akin to apes prior to the influx of the European, especially the Spanish. The ape is a description the white man used, not the North American Indian. Who knew more than the North American Indian the way of the Sasquatch? The answer is nobody. The wild man, or bear man, was thought originally to be related to bears, probably because of the hair issue. The Indians knew nothing about primates. Some of the American Indian legends of yesteryear carry hidden truths. They are hard to ignore. I have learned a great deal by listening to some of their oral traditional teachings. For example, I learned of this next entry from a California Modoc man. It went this way. 1,000 snows ago, there was a great storm over Mount Shasta. There was, they said, a great spirit who lived within the caverns of Shasta Mountain, who sent his youngest daughter out to speak to the storm and tell it to stop blowing so hard. The Modoc feared the mountain might blow over. He also told his dutiful daughter not to stick her head out the top of the mountain, for if she did, the wind would catch her long red hair and blow her away. But the young girl, having never seen the sea, was overcome with curiosity and stuck her head out of the top of the mountain to see it. As her father had warned, her long red hair caught the mighty wind and she was blown away. Fortunately, a group of grizzly bears found the daughter of the Shasta Mountain spirit man and took her in. The grizzly bears were not like the modern bears we see today. They were more like humans, walking on 2 feet. And when the Great Spirit's daughter came of age, she married the oldest grizzly bear's son. Their children were then a combination of Modoc and grizzly man, having the nature of both. They were the first Modocs. I was fascinated by the description of the grizzly man in the Modoc legend. It is another example of coupling between the Indian and the Sasquatch, this time by choice, not by kidnapping. The Modoc of old used the term Yayahas to describe the hairy men of the mountains. The Tetubul Indians. In his booklet, Primitive Man, the Reverend Joseph E. Guinard wrote about the Witiko among the Tetubul people. Apparently, Witiko is an Algonquin word used primarily by the First Nation people of the upper St. Maurice River in Quebec, Canada. Witiko refers to a fabulous monster, a species of giant cannibalistic man. The Tetubul people have 3 different names for the Witiko: Witiko, Kokachi, and Action, and all terms translate pretty much the same in general conversation. Guinard teaches his readers that Tetubul children, upon hearing the word Kokachi, tremble and keep very still. If Kokachi heard them, he would come after them, steal them, and possibly eat them. For that reason, the elder tribesmen spoke to their children in hushed tones. According to the Tetubul people, the Witiko are people possessed by the devil, which is an idea put upon the Indians during the influx of various religious missionaries who arrived willing to teach the indigenous Tetubul the white man's religious ways. Reverend Guinard called the Witiko a fine flower of wickedness. There was no such thing as a good Witiko. The Reverend also wrote that the monsters were both male and female, but they never lived together as married couples. If by chance 2 Witikos encountered each other, a dreadful fight ensued, and the victor devoured the loser of the muscled match. The interesting part of character of the Witiko was that Guinard wrote that summer and winter the Witiko went about naked and never suffered from the cold. Today, we see many such instances of tracks recorded in snow that travel over great distances. Approximately 1881, the Reverend Guinard wrote, "The Witiko wore no clothing. Summer and winter he went naked and never suffered cold. His skin was black like the skin of a Negro, and he was seen rubbing himself against fir, spruce, and other resinous trees. After he was covered with gum or resin, Witiko would roll around in the sand. After several applications of gum and sand, the Witiko looked like a man made of stone." This may have been the origins of the terminology stone giants by the white man as he passed through Indian territories. The strange behavior by the Witiko is repeated in many other native teachings. Quoting Guinard, "The Witiko had no lips. His mouth was frightful and menacing. His breath passed through his enormous crooked teeth with a sinister hissing. The Witiko's eyes were big and rolled in blood." As I read through Reverend Guinard's work, I came away with the impression that he was more afraid of the Witiko than the Indians were. It was apparent in his work. To be continued, and thank you for listening. There would be many parts to the reading of this book. If you like this reading, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to be sure to catch the future parts. We welcome comments, but please be considerate of others. If you have had an experience with or about Bigfoot, cryptids, UFOs, paranormal, or any other strange happenings, and would like to share them on our channel to be read, please email them to sharingofstrangestories@gmail.com. We hope to establish a channel that can provide an outlet for people to speak freely of their experiences without ridicule from others. There are many of us out there that have had these experiences and have faced the ridicule. Emails will be read on our channel, so please keep them family friendly. If you want to remain anonymous and do not want your name read to the public, please put that at the beginning of the email or in the subject line. Thanks again for listening, and stay safe.